Hi guys. In lesson 12, we're going to do problem solving, and problem solving is my favorite thing to do in math. So I'm very excited for this lesson. This lesson, the Eureka lesson, goes very quickly through the problems. So I'm going to be stopping a lot and doing some of our work together. So, problem solving is very complicated, sometimes can be very complicated, and I love problem solving because I love a good challenge. So when we have problems that are challenging, I like to face them head on and try to solve them the best I can by identifying all of the important information, everything the question is asking me, and then ultimately solving it. So these questions that we're going to go through today are multi-step questions. When you do your practice problems, it'll break down some of the steps for you to more easily do them on your own. Okay, make sure you're paying attention to how we use the tape diagram throughout the lesson, because that will be very beneficial for you when solving problems on your own. Let's go ahead and get started.
Hello, fourth graders, and welcome to lesson 12. My name is Ms. Bertuman, and today we will be solving multi-step word problems. Let's get started. Please read the word problem with me. The City Flower Shop sold 14,594 pink roses on Valentine's Day. They sold 7,857 more red roses than pink roses. How many pink and red roses did the City Flower Shop sell altogether on Valentine's Day? Use a tape diagram to show the work. Whenever I start a word problem, I like to think about the information that I know. So one thing that I do know is that they sold 14,594 pink roses. Let's draw a tape diagram for this. Another piece of information that we know is that they sold more red roses than pink roses.
Okay, so I'm just going to switch to my screen, and then we're going to go back and forth between the two screens, between mine and our Eureka one. So we said that first, before we even start, we really want to read the problem twice, because the first time you read it just to kind of get the gist of what the problem is all about. And then in the second time you read the problem, it really helps you figure out what the important information is that you need to pull out. So I want to read this problem again, even though we, in the Eureka video, we already started solving it. But this problem says the City Flower Shop sold 14,594 pink roses on Valentine's Day. So that's where we get this information from, right? It tells us 14,594. Okay, and then it says they sold 7,857 more red roses than pink roses. So when we have the word more and than in the same sentence, we know that you are going to have to do something different. It doesn't straight up tell us how many red roses they sold. We're going to have to do some operation, some mathematical operation to figure out how many red roses they sold. So since it says more red roses, we can kind of get a clue that we're going to add something, Okay, so if the amount of our red roses, it says they sold this many more red roses than pink roses. So that sentence tells us that the red is going to be greater than the number of pink roses that were sold. So we're going to add the number of pink roses, which was 14,594. And we know that the red roses were 7,857 more than the pink roses. So we're going to extend our tape diagram and we're going to put in 7,857. And this makes sense because we have more red roses than pink roses. So our tape diagram should be longer for our red roses than our pink roses. Continuing on with our second read of the problem, it says, how many pink and red roses did the city flower shop sell all together on Valentine's Day? All together. That tells us that we're going to add the amount of pink roses to the amount of red roses. Now, if you weren't reading very carefully, or you just read this problem one time, then you might just pull out the two numbers, see the keyword all together, and add those two numbers together. But that is not going to give us an accurate answer because you didn't consider that they sold more red roses than pink roses, or this many more red roses than pink roses. Okay, so don't leave out any pieces of your problem. Okay, that is a huge problem that fourth graders tend to have, is they leave out pieces of their problem when they are trying to problem solve because they just want to get it over with and done with so that they can move on to something else.
But do we know how many red roses did they sell? No, we don't know that information. I'm going to start a tape diagram for the red roses. And we know that this amount is 14,594 for the pink roses. But now I'm going to extend that tape diagram to include 7,857 more.
So in her solving, she did not label this piece. She just assumed that you would understand that this piece, since this piece is 100 or 14,594, you would know that this piece is 14,594. But I don't want to assume that you know that or that you would remember that. So when I did my example, I labeled both boxes so that we can make sure we know the numbers we are adding together.
What is it that we're trying to solve? You can see in our question it asks, how many pink and red roses do the city flower shop sell all together? So we need to figure out how many pink and how many red in total. I'm going to draw a bracket here to the side to include both tape diagrams that we've just drawn with the variable R to represent all of the roses that were sold.
So again, she's using a variable like she did in lesson 11. The R stands for roses, for the total amount of roses that we're selling all together. Okay, so she put this bracket so she would remember that she needs to add her pink roses plus her red roses to find the answer.
How can we determine how many red roses were sold? Yes, we can add 14,594 plus 7,857. Pause the video here and solve for how many red roses total were sold on Valentine's Day.
So go ahead and pause your video and answer the question, how many red roses were sold on Valentine's Day?
We'll compare answers when we get back. Take a moment now to compare your work with mine. Let's return back to this bottom tape diagram. How many red roses were sold? 22,451 red roses were sold. Again, we're trying to solve for how many roses were sold all together with our variable r. How do we solve for r? Yes, we need to add our pink roses and red roses. So 14,594 plus 22,451. Again, pause the video here, solve, and then we'll compare our work after.
Go ahead and pause your video and solve so that you can find the answer to how many total roses were sold on Valentine's Day. So we're actually going to solve that one together. Here is where I found out how many red roses we sold. And here is where I'm going to add my red plus my pink roses to figure out how many total roses we sold on Valentine's Day. So 4 plus 1 is 5. 9 plus 5 is 14. And I'm going to carry my 1 underneath where our Eureka carrying is going on. Okay. 4 plus 5 is 9 plus 1 is going to be 10. And then 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. And then we have 2 plus 1 is 3. So our answer should be 37,045. Let's check with our Eureka teacher to see if we were correct.
The video here, solve, and then we'll compare our work after. What does R equal? R equals 37,045. Let's now write a statement to answer the question.
So in Eureka Math, they feel like it's very important to write a statement expressing what your answer is. So all you really have to do is write out one sentence saying what your answer is. It is to help you identify the fact that this is what I am solving for. Okay, so in her statement, she wrote, the city flower shop sold 37,045 pink and red roses on Valentine's Day. So that's showing she knows to add the pink, she knew to add our pink roses plus our red roses in order to find the answer to our question.
The City Flower Shop sold 37,045 pink and red roses on Valentine's Day. Please read this next word problem with me.
So we are going to read this because this problem is a little bit complicated. So we're going to walk through this together and then see if she goes through it the same way that we did. Okay, so it says, our problem says, on Saturday, 32,736 more bus tickets were sold than on Sunday. On Sunday, only 17,295 tickets were sold. How many people bought bus tickets over the weekend? Use a tape diagram to show the work. So we've read it one time. We know we're trying to figure out something about bus tickets. It's telling us something about bus tickets, and we know we're talking about a weekend, and we know we're talking about Saturday and Sunday. So during my second time I'm reading this problem, I'm going to see if I can identify some important information to help me solve my problem. So on Saturday, so that's telling me we're going to identify what is happening on Saturday. So on Saturday, 3,736 more bus tickets were sold than on Sunday. So if there are more bus tickets being sold on Saturday than on Sunday, we know Saturday is going to have more bus tickets than Sunday does. On Sunday, only 17,295 tickets were sold. So that gives us exactly how many tickets were sold on Sunday. How many people bought bus tickets over the weekend? So this part of the question, or this part of our problem, is asking us how many people bought bus tickets on the weekend. It doesn't specifically say Saturday, and it doesn't specifically say Sunday. We know our two weekend days are Saturday and Sunday, so we're going to put them together. Okay. So I'm going to just note some of our important information. So we know 32,736 more. I'm going to double underline more because that is very important. More bus tickets were sold than on Sunday. Okay. On Sunday, only this many tickets were sold. Okay. And then we want to underline over the weekend because that's showing us we want to add the 2 days together. So on Saturday, okay, we know there's going to be more tickets sold on Saturday than on Sunday. So I'm going to draw my Sunday tape diagram first because I already know how many tickets are sold on Sunday. So let's draw our tape diagram for Sunday first. Okay, we know there are 17,295 tickets that were sold on Sunday. Okay, then Saturday, it says this many more tickets were sold than on Sunday. So that means it would be Sunday plus this many more tickets. So I'm just going to put my Sunday bar again, or my Sunday piece of tape, and then I'm going to add many more tickets. Okay, so 17,295 plus 32,736. And we want to know total how many tickets were sold over the weekend. So we can make our variable W, or you could make it T for tickets. Actually, I like T better. Let's use T. For tickets, the amount of tickets sold. Okay, let's go back to our Eureka video and see what our Eureka teacher is going to, how she's going to set up the problem and see if we did it the same way.
On Saturday, 32,736 more bus tickets were sold than on Sunday. On Sunday, only 17,295 tickets were sold. How many people bought bus tickets over the weekend? Use a tape diagram to show the work. Think for a minute here. What information do you know? We know that on Sunday, only 17,295 tickets were sold. We also know that on Saturday, more tickets were sold than on Sunday. In fact, there were 32,736 more tickets. Let's start with a tape diagram to represent Sunday. Again, we know it's 17,295 tickets that were sold on Sunday. For Saturday, we know it was more. So this first part represents, again, 17,295. But now I'm going to extend my tape diagram even further, and this larger part represents the fact that there were 32,736 more tickets that were sold on Sunday. What information are we trying to figure out? We need to solve how many people bought bus tickets over the weekend. I'm going to draw a bracket to the right of our two tape diagrams with the variable T to represent the number of tickets sold over the weekend. Before we solve, let's estimate. I'd like you to round the numbers to the nearest 10,000 to figure out about how many tickets were sold over the weekend. We'll compare our estimates afterwards. Pause here. How did you do with estimating?
Okay, so let's go back to our problem and do some estimating. So we want to estimate by rounding to the highest placed value for these numbers. I think that would be the best way to estimate. So 17,295, if we rounded to the highest place value, would be the 10,000th place. And if we rounded to the 10,000th place, then both of these numbers would round to the same thing because they're exactly the same. So if we look at the 7, we know this 1 is going to go up. So that would round to 20,000. Okay, if we round 32,000 to the nearest 10,000th place, then this 3 is going to stay the same because we have a 2 next door. So this is going to be 30,000. Okay, so when we add those 3 numbers together, 30,000 plus 20,000 plus 20,000, we end up with 70,000. So our answer, the reason why we are estimating is to see if we can come up with a reasonable answer. So our answer should be very close to whatever our estimated answer is. This does take extra time, but it helps you make sure that your answer is correct. Because if your answer is way off, like if you ended up with your total answer as like 15,627, you would know that that can't be right because our answer should be close to 70,000. Or if you ended up with 180,629, you know that couldn't be right because 180,000 is not anywhere close to 70,000. So that is the reason why we estimate.
When I rounded the numbers to the nearest 10,000, I saw about 20,000 were sold on Sunday. And so on Saturday, that meant I had about 50,000 tickets were sold, giving us a total of about 70,000 tickets sold over the weekend. What I'd like you to do next is find the exact answer. Go ahead and pause the video here to solve for for the exact answer.
So let's do this one together. Let's solve for the exact answer together. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to figure out how many total were sold on Saturday, and then add the number of tickets sold on Sunday to the number of tickets sold on Saturday. Because if I added the three numbers together, then I might mess up, and I don't want to mess up. I don't want to have to do my problem more than once. So I'm going to save myself some time and make sure that my answer is correct by just adding two numbers at a time. So we have 6 plus 5 is 11, carry our 1. 9 plus 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10, and we're going to carry our 1 again. 7 plus 2 plus 1 again is 10, and carry our 1. Then we have 1 plus 3 plus 1 is 5. This right here is very close to what we estimated Saturday was, right? Because 20,000 plus 30,000 is 50,000, and here we have 50,031, which is extremely close to our estimated answer. Now we're going to add 17,295 for the number of tickets we sold on Sunday. Oops. One plus 5 is 6. 3 plus 9 again is 12. 2 plus 1 is 3. 0 plus 7 is 7, and 5 plus 1 is 6. So our answer here should be 67,326. Or there were 67,326 tickets sold over the weekend. I want you to try to get into the habit of writing your sentence after solving a problem. Let's see if we were right.
And then, of course, we'll compare our work afterwards. Take a moment to compare your answer with mine.
So our Eureka teacher added all three of these numbers together at one time. But I want you to practice adding twice instead of adding all of the numbers together at one time, just to save yourself any sort of careless mistakes that you might make.
Okay, so the total number of tickets sold over the weekend is 67,326. Therefore, T equals 67,326. Let's look back at our estimate. Is our answer reasonable? Yes, our answer is reasonable. If we were to round 67,326 to the nearest 10,000, it would be 70,000.
So she's using her estimate that she came up with originally to make sure that her answer is reasonable.
Let's now write a statement to answer the question above. Read the statement with me. There were 67,326 people who bought tickets over the weekend. Please read this problem with me.
Okay, this is going to be our last problem, and this problem is definitely the most complex problem of the three that we're doing together. So let's read it twice, because the first time we're going to get the gist of what it's asking, and then the second read we're going to find out what the important information is. So it says, last year, Big Bill's department store sold many pairs of footwear. 118,214 pairs of boots were sold. Oh my gosh, that is so many boots. Then it says 37,092 more pairs of sandals than pairs of boots were sold. And 124,417 more pairs of sneakers than pairs of boots were sold. How many pairs of footwear were sold last year? Okay, so let's point out some key information. It tells us exactly how many pairs of boots were sold, right? Pairs of boots, that many pairs of boots, okay? Then it tells us there were blank some more pairs of sandals than pairs of boots. Okay, and then it tells us there were some more, actually let me double underline more and then, okay, more pairs of sneakers than pairs of boots. Okay, so remember earlier we talked about more than, that means we're going to be adding something together. So we know, actually let's finish this, how many pairs of footwear were sold last year. So that is going to be all of the things put together, right? Boots, sandals, and sneakers. So let's start with representing our boots, because that is given to us. It tells us how many pairs of boots we have, right? It's 118,214 pairs of boots. Okay, then it says there are blank 37,092 more pairs of sandals than pairs of boots. So let's do sandals. Sandals is going to be boots plus the extra sandals, the more than the boots sandals. So 37,092. Okay, and then we have sneakers. So our sneakers are 124,417 more pairs of sneakers. Whoa. So our boots were 118,214. And then our sneakers are even more than that. Oh my gosh, so many sneakers. 124,417. Now looking at this part of our tape diagram, this is not accurately represented. So I'm going to just change it a little bit. So that's a little bit smaller than 118,000. Okay, this one probably shouldn't be quite as long either. Okay, so we want to estimate first to see if we can find an answer that is going to give us something close to what our answer should be. So I'm going to round, since I have this number right here that is in the 10,000s place and the rest are in the 100,000s place, I'm going to round all of my numbers to the nearest 10,000s place, because I think that's going to give me a more accurate representation of what we're looking for. So okay, so 118,214 rounded to the nearest 10,000s place is 120,000. 37,000 rounded to the nearest 10,000s place is going to be 40,000. And 124,417 rounded to the nearest 10,000th place is going to be 1 120,000. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 120,000s and then 40,000. So this is our estimate for what we would for the sneakers. This is going to be our estimate for the sandals, and then we're going to add those together along with our boots. And this right here that I'm adding, oh no, I was working too low. There you go. This last 120. So I added the estimated number of sneakers plus the estimated number of sandals equals 400,000. So these two together would be 400,000. And then I'm adding my estimated number of boots to that, which gives me 520,000. So our answer should be close to 520,000. Okay. We're finding the total number of footwear. Which I'm going to represent as F. And I'm just going to draw a line to separate. This is our estimated answer. Okay, and then we're going to solve for our real answer. So I would like to find the total number of sneakers, the total number of sandals, and the total number of boots, and then add those three together. While I'm adding, you try to add on your own. Look, even I mess up and get tripped up. This new Eureka way of math is, it's new to everybody, so we're all practicing. Okay, make sure your numbers are staying neatly lined up. It's very easy to get them out of place and messed up. So here are, these are our sneakers that we just added together, or that we just found. Our sandals, we're gonna find next. Also, be careful when you're writing because you might miswrite something and then you think you have a different number than what you should have. Okay, so here are our number of sneakers. This is our number of sandals. We have our number of boots up here. So I want to add our sneakers and sandals together and then add our boots to that. Okay, so we ended up with 397,937 for the amount of sandals and sneakers together. And then I'm going to add the number of boots to that. I like to label what my numbers represent so that I don't get confused or lost. Okay, so my final answer was 516,151. That's my number of footwear. I've used the whole page to answer this question. So this is my number of footwear, and that is very close to my estimated number. So I think that that is a reasonable estimate. We're going to kind of zoom through the end of our Eureka video so that we can make sure our answer is correct and go ahead and get started with our practice work.
Last year, before we begin solving for the actual number, let's make an estimate.
Okay, so she drew her chart exactly the same way we did. She just did not label these things, which I feel is doing a disservice to you guys as fourth graders. So my suggestion would be to label each and every part so that you don't misplace any numbers or forget any numbers. She labeled her total as P for pairs of footwear instead of F for footwear.
Pause the video here.
Okay, so we estimated, she estimated and got 520,000, which is exactly what we got. She estimated first. She added all of her numbers together in one crazy way, which you could do that with a small amount of numbers. I wouldn't recommend it, but for estimating, I think it's okay.
520 out. A little bit more space to solve this.
Okay, I'm going to turn these closed captions off so that we can see her work. Oh, nope.
Go ahead and take.
Okay, so she added her sandals, the pieces for her sandals together. She figured out how many sandals she had. Then she figured out how many sneakers she had. Then which we ended up with those same answers. And then she added the sandals, the sneakers, and the boots all together to figure out how many pairs of footwear she had. Then she wrote her sentence, which we did not do for sake of time, but she wrote her sentence explaining how many pairs of footwear she knew were sold last year.
Take a moment to compare your work with mine. Is our estimate reasonable?
So we talked about our answer versus, she's currently talking about her answer versus her estimate to check and see if it is reasonable, which we also did that. And then that should be the end.
Yes, it is. Because we can see 516,151 rounded to the nearest 10,000 would in fact be 502,000. So our statement here answers the question. The statement is 516,151 pairs of footwear were sold last year. Great work today. Let's move into today's assignment. For today's assignment, your must-do problems are here on the screen.
So your must-do problems, you need to do 2 and 4, and throughout the problem, it's going to have you go step by step where you're estimating, talking, finding the answer, and then talking about reasonableness in each problem. You can do your work on a piece of paper and take a picture using your webcam on Google Slides and paste that into your Google Slides. Just make sure it is legible so that we can read it. If you want to, you are more than welcome to practice problems 1 and 3 as well.
Take 10 minutes to work through these problems, and then of course, if you have any additional time, feel free to work through any other problems on the pages. For today's lesson, we solved multi-step word problems. Excellent work today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And then of course, be sure to check in with your teacher, and we'll see you here next time for another Eureka Math lesson.
You guys did an amazing job at solving these very challenging problems today. Make sure you work really, really hard on your practice problems since you only have 2 of them. Make sure you're really thinking about the problem, reading through the problem twice, once to get the gist of it, and then the second time to find the key information. Make sure you're using tape diagrams. Those will help you a lot.